Tabanjiden Sumna Lamebon Gombo Shonyi Jala Cha, Senjo Temba Chimeta Vish, Sendo Jawa Jala Cha, Zemo Jala, Seva Suma, Yame Chenji Jala Cha, Gombo to Jeshen, Tamje Jembe Temba Solomon Yende Jazu, Dishin Shama Cha, Taben de Shachawan, Giving as one day, Chidu, Shinju Jala Cha, Zelo Chene, Lava Shinga Tama Yenden Gendon Lanya Cha, the Guachi and Measures, Gawabos of Rangi Sim the Yonzo Timo Tennis on the Dama. Karma Rima Meta Jumase, Sugar the Melon Lada Tenda. The Jason of the Data Sonamati, Jezeba, you command on the Junior Gadan Nada Shiva Lotri, Sivas on the one
to the teacher, the blessed one, on beyond, the foe destroyer, completely perfected, fully awakened being, perfecting knowledge and good conduct, Suga, know of the word, supreme guide of beings to be tamed, teacher of gods and humans, to you, the completely and fully awakened one, the blessed one, the glorious conqueror, the subduer from the Shakya clan, I prostrate, make offerings, and go for refuge. To the teacher, the blessed one, the one gone beyond, the foe destroyer, completely perfected, fully awakened being, perfect in knowledge and in good conduct, Sugata, know of the word, supreme guide of beings to be tamed, teacher of gods and humans, to you the completely and fully awakened one, the blessed one, the glorious conqueror, the subduer from the Shakya clan, I prostrate, make offerings, and go for refuge. To the teacher, the blessed one, the one gone beyond, the foe destroyer, the completely perfected, fully awakened being, perfect in knowledge and in good conduct, Sugata, know of the word, supreme guide of beings to be tamed, teacher of gods and humans, to you the completely and fully awakened one, the blessed one, the glorious conqueror, the subduer from the Shakya clan, I prostrate, make offerings, and go for refuge. When the supreme among humans you were born on this earth, you paced out 7 strides, then said, I am supreme in this world. To you who are wise then I prostrate. With pure bodies formed supremely pure, wisdom ocean like golden mountain, fame that blazes in the 3 words, we know the best, to you I prostrate. With the supreme sign, space like spotless moon, color like gold, to you I prostrate. You are immaculate, the 3 words are not, incomparably wise one, to you I prostrate. The Savior having great compassion, teacher having all understanding, the field of merit with qualities like a vast ocean, to you the one gone to dustness I prostrate. The purity which makes one free from attachment, the virtues which frees one from the lower realms, the one path, the sublime pure reality, to that Dharma which pacifies I prostrate. Those who are liberated and also show the path to liberation, wholly qualified with realizations, who are devoted to the moral precepts, to you the sublime community intending virtue I prostrate. Do not commit any non-virtuous actions, perform only perfect virtuous actions, subdue your mind thoroughly. This is the teaching of the Buddha. A star, a mirage, a flame of a lamp, an illusion, a drop of dew or bubble, a dream, a flash of lightning or cloud, see conditioned things as such. Through these merits may sentient beings attain all sin, subdue the flow of thoughts, and be delivered from motion of suffering, of aging, sickness, and death. Sanje Jano Zoje Jano Loa Janju, Badu Dane Dage Jason Jibson, Rola Beji Sanje Jano Zoje Jano Loa Janju, Badu Dane Dage Jason Jibson, Dola Beji Sanje Jubaju, Sanje Jano Zoje Jano Janju, Badu Dane Jason Jibson, Dola Beji Sanje Jubaju. I go for refuge and love enlightenment to the Buddha, the Dhamma, and Sangha. Through the merit I create by practicing giving and the other perfections, may I quickly attain the state of Buddha for the benefit of all sentient beings. I go for refuge and love enlightenment to the Buddha, the Dhamma, and Sangha. Through the merit I create by practicing giving and the other perfections, may I quickly attain the state of Buddha for the benefit of all sentient beings. I go for refuge and dwell enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and Sangha. Through the merit I create by practicing giving and the other perfections, may I quickly attain the state of Buddha for the benefit of all sentient beings.
So we are on the page 388. Right.
Bottom, we got to almost the bottom.
Yeah, I'm going to read from it. Showing through reasons how such statement is provisional. To elucidate through reasoning how the statement about mind only is provisional. So now the root text says, once the cognizable objects are shown to be no more, then the cognitions of the negation of the cognitions is easily obtained. The Buddha said, thus, if there is no object, the cognition is easily negated as a consequences. So the Buddhas first negate the object of cognitions. Now this Chandrakirti is saying that how the mind only is provisional. So Chandrakirti is saying that once the cognizable object, external realities, shown to be not intrinsically, no more intrinsically existing, then the negation of intrinsic existing of the cognition is easily obtained. Once the external reality is proven to be not intrinsic, with that they can, understands the consciousness does not truly exist as a consequences. So this is why Buddha. So Chandrakirti said this is the kind of the skillful means of the Buddha. So therefore, Buddha first negate object of cognitions. So object of cognitions, as I said, external realities. As a skillful means to help lead them to the truth of suchness. So these are all the skillful means. They all lead them to the understanding of the emptiness. So suchness is emptiness. The Buddhas first expose those with good stores of the merit and discourse on the practice of generosity and like, in the same manner with respect to those trainees who do not have the capacity to realize the full meaning of the profound truth right from the start. So the mind-only school is taught to those individuals who lack the capacity to realize full meaning of emptiness. So the Buddha lead them towards the realizations no intrinsic existence gradually. To such trainee, once cognizable objects, external reality, are first shown to be no more, no intrinsic, then negation of intrinsically existing cognition is easily obtained. So the Buddha have said, this being so, the absence of cognizable, in other words, the negation of external reality from the outset, it is meant to help induce full realizations of selflessness. So the Buddha first taught the negation of external reality, external object of the cognition alone. For if there is no object, that is, if the selflessness of external reality has been understood, the cognition is easily negated as a consequence. That is to say, the selflessness of consciousness will be easily established. Yeah. So Chandrakirti thinks that the mind-only school point of view is Buddha has taught to individual who has not yet, generate the capacity to understand the fully emptiness. So among those have the awareness of no intrinsic existence of the external reality, some may realize no intrinsic existence of cognitions on their own, while others will realize this on the basis of the brief explanations by another, so that the statement about the non-existing of external reality and the intrinsic existence of the cognitions are provisional is clearly stated in the commentary on the awakening mind as well. So the mind-only school, who's through the contemplations, and once they realize external realities is not intrinsically exist, and then they will easily understand the cognition of the consciousness is not intrinsically exists. So then they move mind-only school to the bodhisattva school. So the awakening mind as well. So all of this, but one's mind, in the awakening mind, it's saying that all of this is but one's mind, that which was stated by the able one, is to elevate, right, the fear of the childish as to statement final truth. It is not the statement of final truth. So just for the childish being, childish people, because they are fearing the meaning of not intrinsically existing. For they think it's a nihilism for those, and says taught the mind over school. So all of this is but one's mind, that which was stated by the able one, is to elevate the fear. What is the fear? Fearing that not intrinsically existing means not existing at all. So those childish, so whatever their, Buddha has taught, any point of view, so that is not the final truth. And then the Aryadeva stated this explicitly in his compendium of the heart of Gnosis as well. Yishikuna Devas, the compendium of the heart of Yishikuna. So how to recognize the provisional and the definitive meaning of the sutra? So Lama Tsongkhapa's essence of eloquence is all about differentiating provisional and definitive. So those with intelligence should present other provisional scriptures which does not explicitly teach the suchness in its entirety along this same line. To state this, the root text says, so the intelligence here, the Prasangika school, so now they're saying that any of the sutra, the Buddha's teachings, which has not explicitly teach about the profound dependent originations of the emptiness, and all of them count as the provisional. So teaching that are explicitly, explicitly stated the how's that? Absence of intrinsic existence, and then that is the definite teaching. Thus, having understood this account of the scripture, so you understand the history of the whole Buddha's teachings. Some are for people who has fearing for understanding of the absence of intrinsic as a non-existence, and that the one part them, and then some intelligent who can understand the dependent originations, and two part. You can divide the scripture into two. So in the root text says, thus having understood this account of the scriptures, the history of the scriptures, understand those sutras that present what is not true suchness as a provisional, they interpret them accordingly. So accordingly interpret. So the mind, in the 10 ground sutra, the 3 ram is mind only. So how do you interpret that accordingly? And the Chandrakirti says that particular sutras, there's 2 ways to interpret. One, there's, what made the 3 rams. So is it all consciousness, or there is some involved which are not consciousness? And then material and the consciousness, or the element or the consciousness, right? And the mind is the only primary cause. So which means that, And another interpretations of that three ram is mind only means so there is no creator. If there is creator, the mind is the creator. Other than the mind, there is no creator. And then another interpretations, when this first telling will of the Dharma, Buddha teaches of the Four Noble Truths, the 8 truths with 4 attributes. So how do you interpret that? That is not definite teaching. So now this is the 4 attributes of the truth of suffering, the impermanence, the conditioned suffering, empty independent I, and empty intrinsic I. So this is the impermanence. Impermanence. The meaning of the impermanent is provisional. So why it is the impermanence provisional? Because this is not the final truth. If you analyze, examine impermanence again, and impermanence will be found not intrinsically existing. So the final truth of the nature of the phenomena, like for example, when Buddha says the aggregates, the body, mind are impermanence. So the impermanence is the the character of the nature of the body and the mind. Is this final nature? Is the final truth? And then it is not the final truth. So therefore, it is provisional. Impermanence is provisional. The conditioned suffering is the provisional. Conditioned suffering is the provisional because there is no, true existing of suffering. The suffering is, suffering is only exists when there is the misconceptions. So when there is the, fearing of the snake may bite you due to the superimposing of the rope as a snake. So that suffering, you fear that snake may bite you, is the suffering, is conditioned by the misconceptions, superimposing as on the coil rope as a snake. So that suffering is not intrinsic, does not truly exist. So this is one of the, accordingly, interpret as provisionals. And then another sutra, the Buddha says, every sentient being possess the Buddha, with 32 marks and everything complete as a Buddha, that existing in each of the sentient beings, like a diamond that wrapped with rag, So, so that how do you interpret that is now this is the face value, literally the meaning and intentional. So what is in his mind when he said that every sentient being possesses the real Buddha, but still is wrapped with contaminated aggregates. Within the contaminated aggregates, Buddha is still there. The real Buddha is there, like the real diamond, the wrapped with the rat. So how do you interpret that? And then this is the intentions. You should understand what is Buddha when he said that, what he is thinking. So he was thinking as the emptiness of the mind. And then if in his mind there's the emptiness of the mind is the Buddha natures, and why he used this, why he say like, there's a real Buddha with 32 marks, Then says, the audience, because of the audience, they are, pretty much their background, the influence of their background, thinking that the Bhagavan is everywhere. Bhagavan is in the tree, Bhagavan is in the rock, Bhagavan is in the air, Bhagavan is in the fire, Bhagavan is in the water, Bhagavan is in the human being and animals, everywhere. So then, according to their kind of, mental dispositions, and Buddha used that term. Yes, like you said, the Buddha is in every sentient being. So that Buddha, so marks, having 32 marks. The real Buddha is there. So when he said that, what he was actually meant, the intended to is the Buddha nature, the potential of the Buddha. So this is what, so accordingly interpret them accordingly.
Out of 4 attributes of the truth of suffering, so impermanence and condition of suffering was provisional. The other 2 also was emptiness of self and emptiness of intrinsic self.
Yeah. Emptiness of the independent I and the emptiness of intrinsic I. So the final emptiness, intrinsic I is the ultimate, definitive. Yeah. So the rest, the 3 attributes are provisional. So now here, the provisional means is not the final truth, or the truth is not, as it stated in the literally. So yeah. And then the mind-only school, the 13th will of the Dharma, how do you interpret? Then we say, this is for the individual who lacks the capacity to fully understand the emptiness. So for them, it is taught. It is necessary, it is beneficial to them. So yeah, and know those that bear an emptiness are definite. So like Heart Sutta, Prajaparamita Sutras, all of them. Even the first turning wheel of the Dharma, some of the Dharmas that explicitly talking about emptiness, these are the definite. And then there's a teaching on impermanence through the sound of the tree, which was the sutra that taught in the Gotra, about impermanence. So that's also provisional, because the meaning of the impermanence is not a final truth. So, which means the sutra, the provisionals, some are provisional because it's, you cannot take literally, therefore it's provisional. Some sutras is literally, there's nothing, you can take it literally, but it's not the final truth. Like impermanence, you can take it literally, but it is not the final truth. So And then about the mind-only school, like other power natures truly existing, thoroughly established natures truly existing, only the imputational factors not truly existing. Then that is not, you can, you cannot take this literally, and it is provisional. And the Buddha possessing in every sentient beings, is not literally, but it is definite. Yeah, so thus having understood this account of the provisional and definitive sutra or the scriptures in terms explained above, you should understand all those sutras that present or have as their content or subject matter what is not true suchness, those that teach provisional truth and do not explicitly elucidate dependent originations characterized in terms of no arising, and so on, as a provisional, and interpret them accordingly. So finally you can say the sutra that is not really...
Yes, why is, I thought no arising exists because of interdependence, that it's ultimately illusory. Arising and dissolution are illusory. So why is that considered provisional? I thought this was because of emptiness. There's no...
I think you should read the whole line here. Says the truth and do not explicitly elucidate dependent origination characterized in terms of no arising, so on, as a provisional. Sutra that is not explicitly mentioning about no arising, no disintegrations, like Heart Sutra, no nose, no eye, no tongue, right? So these, something that is not like that, are provisional. So teach scriptures that explicitly, stating the emptiness, like no intrinsic arising, no intrinsic disintegrations. These are the definite sutra. So you should do not explicitly elucidate dependent origination characterized in terms of no arising, so on, as a provisional. Heart Sutras is explicitly emphasizing on the emptiness. And Prajaparamita Sutras, most of them, So, and then 13 will of the Dharma is not explicitly, elucidate dependent origination characterized in terms of the no arising. So, 13 will of the Dharma, particularly Sutra, the unraveling thought, is explicitly, mentioned that, other power natures are truly exist. Therefore, arising is truly exists. Disintegration is truly exist. So here, no arising means no intrinsically arising. These are the interpret them accordingly. Recognize such teachings as being similar to those that serve as a condition for condition for later entering realization of the emptiness of intrinsic existence. Now this is like, there's a saying that all road goes to Rome. So this is like that. Whatever Buddha teach, so all lead to the emptiness. So this is also the one of the, one of the skillful means teaching and minority school point of view, Sogantic school point of views are the skillful means. They're all step by step leading towards, the emptiness. So intrinsic existence. Now here this him, right? How do you pronounce this? Him, yeah. Him to the world transcendent state. So we call the praising to the supermundane state, or salutation to the supermundane state. For example, the great, in this Nagarjuna, this was Nagarjuna. Nagarjuna says in that sutra, the great elements are not perceived by I, so how can their derivatives be perceived by the I? The speaking of the material form in this manner, you clearly prevents the grasping at form. So this is directly, talking about, form is not intrinsic. So the great elements are not perceived. If the elements are not perceived by the I, then how the derivative of the elements, which is the form that perceived by the I. So now this kind of, what do you call it? He was kind of stating the criteria. This is if the elements are not perceived by the I, and how the elements, derivative of the elements, as a form or smell or taste or textures, particularly form, how it's being perceived by the eyes. Then he was, indicating that form that you see with eye is not intrinsic. If that is intrinsic, either you have to say element can be seen, or you have to say what I saw is not visual form. So that's, he said, clearly prevent grasping at form. So he was preventing the, grasping at intrinsic form. The sutra also stated that the meaning of the impermanence is non-existence. Meaning of impermanence is non-existence. The way in which first citations presents logical reason is this. The Buddha taught in the Abhidharma that the four elements are, tactile, right? Phenomena, and are thus not visible object of the eye, while their derivatives, the visual form, is the visual object. While one must accept the both of these points when it comes to the presenting their suchness, one recognized that those phenomena to exist by virtue of their own essence, there would be these consequences. Either one has to admit that the four elements are perceivable by the eye, just as the derived objects, or that the object, the visual form, is not perceivable by the eye. Yeah, so just as it's constituted several elements, constitutive subtle elements, the basis of the elements, are
July.
huh? You know, in Tibet, Jua, in Hindi, Jua is, you know, what called. So what in the gambling, the card they play,
Yeah.
poker, yeah, is Jua. In Tibet, Jua is tick, you know.
What?
The tick. The dogs have
Oh,
this. So, Jungwa, you know. Just as its constitutive subtle elements are not. When one comes to appreciate this problem, one will then understand that the earlier Abhidharma statements do not present true suchness. So, for example, and there's a sutra, the line Buddha says, "Oh, eye consciousness is produced from, you know, the color, form, and eye sense powers." So now that statement, that line is, how do you interpret that? How it is provisional, you know? So is it provisional? So this is a provisional proven by the Nagarjunas, the praising to the supreme mundane state. So then Nagarjuna says, if the form is visible, you know, form is visible by the nature of the form itself, then, you know, it is the derivative elements why the elements cannot be visually perceivable. So that interpreting this particular Buddha Shakyamuni's line, you know, Buddha says eye consciousness is born from, you know, the form and eye sense power, like, you know, son born from the mother and fathers. So the Abhidharma statement do not present true suchness. In this way, one will realize their suchness anew and understand earlier the Abhidharma statement to be a means of leading to that suchness. But it is a leading towards that emptiness, but it is not, you know, explicitly, you know, mentioning about the emptiness. The second citations on the meaning of the impermanence. So, meta-medians, some in Buddha's sutra that you can find, you know, things do not exist as a permanent or nor in the impermanence. So impermanence, not existence. So then this was second citations on the meaning of the impermanence being non-existence, shows how the arising and the disintegration of the things indicates the absence of intrinsic existence. So regarding those sutra that contains the truth of the emptiness of intrinsic existence, emptiness of intrinsic existing of person or and phenomena, that is, those that bear an emptiness as explicitly present this truth as their subject matter. Now that those are the definitive in their meaning. So like Heart Sutras, you know. So this is definitive sutra. So for instance, the King of Meditation Sutras stated, through the emptiness taught by the Tathagatas, so taught by the Tathagata, the specificity, that's very difficult to pronounce. Specificity. I think that's the Guatemala City. Specificity of the definitive sutra will be known. I think here is saying that, like you see the way the Buddha has taught emptiness in the Prajnaparamita Sutras, and so then you can understand the specificity, the definitive sutras will be known. And then if you understand Heart Sutra is the definitive sutra, and then you can also understand other Prajnaparamita Sutras are definitive sutras. And with that reason, you can also, understand the 13 will of the Dharma, differentiating in three characteristics. So they accept the other power nature and the emptiness, and the imputation of factors are not truly exist, and the rest are truly exist. Then you can, this is not literally. The specificity of the definite sutras will be known, where sentient beings then says, even some of sutras, that is, you can take it literally, but it mentioned sentient beings, the persons, individuals are mentioned. These are known to be provisional in the meaning. Even Buddha says, your 5 aggregates are impermanent, and it is a condition of suffering. So that statement is also the provisional. So the specificity of the sutras indicates they're distinct from the provisional sutra. The reference to the persons and so on are only example. It also indicates those scriptures that speak of existing of agent. Then there's an agent, the object of actions as well as act. So when you're in sutra, there's a there's a one line Buddha. I think it's part of the first 10 will of the Dharma. And there is karma, but no agent. No agents. So this particular line is saying that there is karma, means, so the disciple or the audience of that sutras, they interpret karma is intrinsic, and the self of the person is not independent. So there is the karma, but no agent. So there is no permanent I, but karma is truly exists. And how karma will take you or propel you from this life to the next life. Even in the next life, karma will come and it will give rise to the result. Like not only one life and 2 lives and 3 lives. So karma will goes with you like a shadow. So these teachings also, according to Chandrakirti, is provisional. Because there is the indication of intrinsic property in the karma. Object of action as well as act. These citations from the King of the Meditation Sutra is then the scriptural source for differentiating sutras into the 2 class of the provisional and definitive meaning. So the King of the Meditation Sutra through emptiness as taught by the Tathagatas. Now he's saying, where I taught emptiness, then you will understand such of the teaching that I have taught. For provisional, such teachings are definitive. So again, the same sutra, the state, in the thousand-fold world systems, all the teaching I have taught, I think, in the thousand-fold world systems, I think, yeah, a little bit. So why he said in the thousand-fold world systems, like, for example, there's a two way of reading, like the thousands now. It's not 1,000. This is a plural, many thousands, maybe the millions, billions of the planets in the world. So like thousands planets, I have taught thousands times, right? So now this, I have taught, consists of the different word, with thousands words, with thousands, vocabularies. It consists of the word, but one meaning. There's so many terms and words and languages that I use, but one meaning. So, but this one truth cannot be uttered. This pretty much like in the, Rahu, Bodhisattva and his son. In his teaching, there's a one line he says that, the day the Buddha has enlightened until, he went to parinirvana. There's no one word he uttered. There's not even a one word he has uttered. So, for the ordinary, it is totally lie. The day he enlightened until parinirvana, and then he has never even uttered a word. Then we can ask Rahula, when did he teach? So now saying that, I think this implying that, so the why Buddha has to teach so many ways. The meaning is just one. Because they're saying that your word and your thought, lacks the capacity to express, as it is. When it comes to the emptiness, your thought and your word and become muted, could not express as it is. So therefore, he has to teach so many ways. And some say impermanent, sometimes conditional, sometimes he says it's karma exists, not the agent. And sometimes, Buddha taught that even the five aggregates are empty of intrinsic existence. So the word empty is not enough. The word emptiness or word empty of intrinsic existence is, is not going to be able to express the emptiness as it is. And your thought, conceiving the meaning of the emptiness, is also lacking the capacity of understanding the emptiness as it is. So shen means that, and you may have the meaning of emptiness that you may borrow from others or someone deliver it to you, So on all of them are, it's not really, you haven't really got it, the emptiness yet. The sign is, it is not benefiting to you. It is not impacting on your mind. The moment that you got the meaning of emptiness, and you have no choice, there's all impact, that there's moved and changed. So it's hard to express as it is. Therefore, he has to use thousands times, thousands words. So in the thousand folds, the world systems, all the teaching I have taught consists of the different words, but one meaning, but this one truth cannot be uttered. So this is why the reason say why I have to use 1,000 times. So 1,000 times, 1,000 different point of view, 1,000 languages, 1,000 vocabularies, because this one truth cannot be uttered. Right? When you contemplate, now saying that if you understood, if you gotten that one meaning, so when you contemplate this one thing, you will be meditating on all other teachings, So now the power of that understanding emptiness, and you understand one meaning, and you understand all the Buddha's teachings. So the numerous teaching of all the Buddhas, all those that have been taught, are about the selfness of all phenomena. If a person versed in meaning that trains in this essential point, it won't be hard to find the Buddha's attributes, Buddha's qualities. So once you got that meaning, now it is no longer for you too difficult to find the nirvana or the Buddhahood. That's why the first, having gotten the meaning of emptiness, is not easy. It takes how to say it? It takes time, or it takes years, or it takes lives. Now here, the first 4 lines, the beginning with in the 1,000 world systems, indicate that all of those sutras that have been taught, those that explicitly elucidate ultimate truth, directly engage with the true suchness. And those that do not present ultimate truth, the provisional ones, even they engage with suchness indirectly. So they have the same meaning with respect to the engaging, with ultimate truth. Same meaning with respect to the engaging with ultimate truth. Yeah, this was exactly mentioned in the Guide to the Bodhisattvas, chapter 8, the wisdom chapter from the beginning. Shantideva says, all these teachings, practice are, essentially lead to the one thing, to generate wisdom realizing emptiness. So so they have the same meaning with respect to the engaging with ultimate truth. And given that those training on the path at the beginner's level can never discover all the scriptures that exist throughout the universe. It's a beginner level. So this is, the very essential, very, powerful and meaningful, the emptiness. So it is not easy to understand. Therefore, he has to use, teach many school of thoughts, with many words and many, the provisional ways or something. Yeah. He taught throughout the university, inquiry into the true suchness on the basis of the whatever sutra is at hand. They should inquiry into, investigate into true suchness on the basis of the whatever sutra is at hand. This is how we should read the passage. This can be discerned from the fact that this passage is cited to substantiate the point that even though sutras do not explicitly teach the suchness, should be explained as a condition for the approaching true suchness. Yeah, so when this had been said, some people may think, if I understand emptiness, then I don't have to go through all the sutras. So maybe I just want emptiness, And then this is also not possible, So going through the prostration, the recitation, meditation, disciplining, and, reading, contemplating, without going through that, you cannot just, just select one thing in emptiness. So the two-line beginning, that when you contemplate, maybe it's possible during the Buddha Shakyamuni, when Buddha was there in the present of the Buddha, so the 5 disciples, I don't think they took months to reveal the emptiness. Maybe one session of the teaching, and then one by one they attain arhat. So now this is saying that for many lives before, they have, trained their mind, they have generated understandings, they listen, they accumulate the merits. Now, because of the result of those accumulation of merit and the wisdoms, now they are able to directly receive the teaching from the Buddha, So when Buddha says the one line, all the conditional things are, this suffering and all the afflictive emotions, the origin of the suffering and the cessation of the suffering, the path that lead to the liberations. And then suffering, about suffering, is impermanent, conditional suffering, empty, and the absence of intrinsic existence. So just when Buddha says, Dunge Shabachas, suffering to be understands. From the beginning, Buddha did not say suffering has to abandon. I'm going to teach you how to dispel the suffering. Buddha says suffering to understand, and the origin of the suffering to abandon. The cause of the suffering need to be abandoned, suffering to understand. And then the cessation to actualize, to experience, to directly see, and the path to meditate. So, and then the third round where this is, once you completely understand the sufferings, there is no suffering to understand. Once you abandon the cause of the suffering, there is no cause to abandon. Once you actualize the cessations, there is no nirvana to attain. Once once you, completely, went through the path that lead to the liberation, there's no more path to meditate. So just by 3 lines, and Acharya Kundini at first he attained nirvana. So when everybody says happy birthday. So I think during the Buddha there says, Gochigwa means the some was very, very intelligent. Just one word they can understand. Some need several words. Some need 1,000 words. The 2 lines, the beginning is when you contemplate this one thing, indicate that if, on the basis of the excellent understanding, one meditates upon suchness of one subject, this is like meditating upon suchness of all other phenomena. Thus, it is not necessary to meditate individually upon the suchness of each and every specific phenomena. As to how, when one meditates upon the suchness of one entity, this constitutes meditating upon the suchness of all entities. This is explained by the 3 lines beginning. 3 lines beginning, yeah. The teaching I have taught consists of the different words, but one meaning. But this one truth cannot be uttered. So the numerous teaching of all the Buddhas, the fact that sutras identified self-lesser phenomena to be that one entity should not be understood as a saying that only one single practice is adequate when it comes to domain of the vast practice as well. Yeah, this one, like Rahul says, the day he enlightens until, when to parinirvana, Buddha has not a word has uttered, right? And then the Nagarjuna's chapter 25, at the last line says, Sanje jina kandu yu sulang chunga matin, Sanje jina kandu yu. No one has ever taught, any dharma by the Buddha. So that Nagarjuna says, no. So which means whatever you have learned, understood, is provisional. It's not ultimate. This is not a final. So you still have to go. Chandrakirti says that just as the Chandraprabha Sutras, that presents the method of defining the provisional and definite nature of the scriptures, we should also appreciate the extensive presentation found in the sutra, such as the teaching of the Akshamiti. I have already explained this point exhaustively in my differentiating provisional and the definite meaning. So which means essence of eloquence. Lama Tsongkhapa says, I have explained that. Indicate that he will explain briefly how to respond to the following questions. If you interpret the explanations of the 3 natures found in unraveling the intent sutra as a provisional. So Jabberwocky always says sutra, the unraveling thought. And here's unraveling intent sutra. Within your own system, Chandrakirti continues. For example, the snake is a false construct. Snake is a false construct in relation to the coiled rope, because there is no such snake in that rope. In relation to the actual snake, however, it is established as the real because it's not imputation of something that is not there. Likewise, intrinsic or true nature, intrinsic or true nature to remain as a construct, an imputation of the something that is not exist in relation to the condition dependent phenomena. Now he's saying that the the absence of intrinsic, the meaning of the intrinsic is something, nothing. Absence of intrinsic existence of color means color has no intrinsic property at all. So therefore, absence of intrinsic. And conceiving the color intrinsically existing is superimposition, means that intrinsic existing is conceived by the misconception, but there is no intrinsic property. Like, imposing the snake on a coil rope is a superimposition, because within the coil rope there is no snake at all. So conditioned phenomena, for example, fundamental wisdoms, Mulamadhikarikas, and say intrinsic nature is not fabricated, it is not depending on others. So intrinsic means if something is intrinsic, that must not be fabricated, that must not be depending on other factors, because it is intrinsic. So conventionally, what it seems to be intrinsic, heat in the fire seems to be intrinsic, because there is no other additional cause to condition the heat in the fire. So there is no additional cause and condition to produce the moisture in the water, right? So in this way, if there is no fabrication, no cause and conditions, as something by nature it has happened, that is called intrinsic. So then the present is not intrinsic. Present is conceptually constructed based on past and the present. So therefore, the present is not intrinsic, no intrinsically, present. And the past and the futures is the time it exists, therefore, right? Is the time, therefore it exists, but it is not intrinsic. The existing of the past, of the yesterday, is depending on today. If today is not there, there is no past of yesterday. So therefore, the existing of the past is not intrinsic, is conditioned, it is, fabricated. Thus the true natures cannot be something produced. The true nature means something by nature, or the intrinsic, so that cannot be produced. This intrinsic nature, which is imputed in relation to the reflections, like causally produce the world of the dependent originations. So now here is which is imputed relation to the reflections. The reflection of the face in the mirror is not intrinsic, not truly exist, because it's causally produced, is conditioned, and it is a dependent nature. And it is not, another way is it's not ultimate, it is not, the ultimate, or this is not definite, because we cannot perceive, observe right here and now within the sphere of the Buddha's gnosis, seeing the way things really are. So now here saying that the intrinsic or the true nature or the by nature means it is, if something is intrinsic or by nature, that must not be fabricated, that must not be produced, that must not be depending on other factors. And second, it says, if there is true and omniscience from the wisdom of the Buddha, and is seeing everything as it is, and that Buddha should have seen it. The reflection in the mirror is Buddha should have seen intrinsically. It is not fabricated. It is there all the time. Represent actual realities as they are, those seeing things as they are, represent actual reality, the true natures. There it is not imputations of something that is not there. So now again and again saying, actual realities, true natures, there it is not imputation of something. Yeah, so true natures is opposite of produce. The true natures is opposite of imputations. The true nature is opposite of depending. Direct opposing with dependent nature, produce, condition, So this is because the Buddha directly perceives the true natures alone without touching the causally produced things themselves. So I think in Tibetan we say, "Ngobu chebachen marebans." So ngobu chebachen means produce, causally produce. Ngobu chebachen means something that is made, created, fabricated. So when the Buddha sees the reality, when Buddha sees the realities without touching on, things that are conditioned, things that are produced, things that are fabricated, things that are imposed, without touching on them, directly sees the absence of intrinsic as it is. So I think one of the reasons, one of the meaning of that, without touching on produced things, so his mind, the Buddha's omniscience, is always, in every second, every millisecond, is inseparable with that emptiness. So there is no any part of his mind that start imputing or imposing, There is no part of his mind that is, attracted to the fabrications, or, pulling towards, trying to having interest in something, because his mind is, forever, forever, after enlightened forever, he is totally settled into the dustness of the, the ultimate truth. I think that kind of, implies the arhats, the bodhisattvas. Yes, they do have very deep understanding of the emptiness. That does not mean every part of their mind is totally dwells or settled in emptiness. So that's why they are not Buddha. So some may, think that if the Buddha's mind is totally in that absence, settles, rely, dwells in that emptiness, how it is possible Buddha can talk about impermanence, the conditioned sufferings, and the lives and the karmas, and So these are not perceptible for the Buddha. So then says, if you understand the emptiness, you understand the dependent origination, illusion-like, and it has a byproduct. So here there's a nyamja rojiva. In the state of omniscience, nyamja rojiva means is within the one taste, directly, within the one taste, being settled in emptiness and being able to perceive the conventional reality. That is the quality of the omniscient. Having fully realized these natures is called an awakened one. So that's what we call Sangye, awakened one, the Buddha. This lines was usually it's a very not easy, and here's how's that? This is because the Buddha directly perceived the true natures alone, true nature alone. Buddha perceived the true nature alone. So when this is said, conventional may not be perceived, right? He's perceiving the true nature alone, and therefore it is only the true natures without touching ones, without perceiving, conceiving, imagining, causally produce things themselves. So now here's without imagining the conventional reality, Buddha perceives the conventional reality. Without conceiving the entity of the conventional reality, Buddha directly, realized the conventional reality. Yeah. Yeah, sometimes it's very difficult to understand. So when say, the many times when Buddha teaches, so Buddha's teaching is always according to, the mental dispositions of the audience at the time. So he has to understand. He understands. He realizes
each of the sentient beings who is listening right now, and how they went through many lives, how many karmas, how many, what is their emotional state. So everything that exactly understood, Now this is a very, so not conceiving, not imagining, but, he has got every conventional reality.
I thought the nature of conventional realities requires some sort of imagination.
Yes, yeah. Just that generally, even ordinary sentient beings, arhat, bodhisattvas, all they require to go through some kind of characteristic mental projections. So the Buddha he's the able one awakening. So Buddha, is not necessary to going through the imagination, the characteristics. He just got it. So when he comes back, we'll ask him, how do you know that? So how is it possible? Hey, Shakyamuni. So as to how such gnosis does not touch the causally produced entity themselves, this will be analyzed later. Chandrakirti then writes, having thus understood the presentations of the three natures, one should explain the intended meaning of the scriptures. Even the Lama Tsongkhapa was trying to escape from that, So, through such mode of expositions, we should discern the intention behind the presentation of the three natures, as found in the cautions of the Maitreya chapter as well. We should, on this same basis, also understand how the stated meaning underlining the presentations of three facts, three nature in the Unraveling the Intent Sutra is provisional in meaning. In fact, what Chittamatra takes it to be the imputed natures that subject and object, right? Duality imputed with dependent natures as its basis needs to be critically examined, for the two factors, subject and objects, are in fact dependent phenomena. So now Lama Tsongkhapa said that this is kind of new aspect of seeing things. You says every dependent originations, all the other power natures are truly exist. And, eye consciousness is truly exist. And the color is truly exist because there are conditions in the other power nature. So now saying that, so other power natures like eye consciousness and the object of eye consciousness, both are truly exist. So what is, what you're trying to negate, to say that, it's not external, And, this is how, if the consciousness is truly exists, and the consciousness perceiving the form is also truly exists, it is conditional. And you also say the consciousness perceiving the form is mistaken. apart from these two, on other, no other third class of the dependent phenomena exists. As for the presentations of the three nature, so you understand three natures: other power natures, imputational nature, and thoroughly established natures. The question of the Maitreya chapter, as well as the presentation of the three natures, according to the unraveling the intent sutra, I have explained these exclusively in my differentiating provisional and definitive meaning. So clearly, Lama Tsongkhapa has skipped explaining to the, so I say I'll tell you later. So I think we should stop here. And the next 16 chapters, refuting arising in the both from no cause. So the provisionals are interpreted as a provisional, accordingly. So all the sutras is not, you cannot interpret that as a provisional in the same manner. Some sutras are literally, you can take it, but still is provisional because the meaning of that sutra is shallow, it's not the final truth. So therefore it's provisional. And some, like, no external realities, that kind of sutra, no external reality, or the ultimate goal is three, So these are, you cannot take this as literally, so therefore it is provisional. So I think this is the unique system in the Buddhists. They even, examine Buddhist his own teaching. So in order to understand the, ultimate truth, you have to use your intelligence, your wisdoms, your analysis. You have to use your wisdom. And you cannot just rely on the scriptures, because some scriptures says there's no external reality. Some scriptures say, yes, there's external reality. Some says, other power natures truly exist. Some says, even the five aggregates are not truly exist. So therefore, you cannot just understand the meaning simply relying on the scriptures. So therefore, you have to use the reasoning.
Other schools usually take the sutras literally. They just
some Satanic school they take literally. Therefore, they kind of they deny many scriptures, because it's not fitting in their point of view. They says, so we are Sutantika. Sutantika means the one who takes the sutra literally as it is. That's Sutantika. So, and what they believe is, about the three times, only the present exists, past and future do not exist. And then within the five aggregates, like the five aggregates are truly exist. self is not independent, but it is intrinsic. So when they find another sutra, the Buddhist scriptures, that talks about even the 5 aggregates are empty of intrinsic existence, then says, or maybe this is not taught by the Buddha. So that's the problem. And and in Mayan existence, we accept all of them. These are the Buddha Sutra. Now this is how it shows how Buddha, how skillful means when it comes to, leading the sentient beings to the enlightenment. Like doctors prescribing the medicines according to the patients. In Sri Lanka, there you see, there's many of the ruined temples, and all in the past for many years. So they are practiced by indigenous text studying, and then this comes, So we should follow the sutras literally as it is, and something that against with that, and then we exclude that is part of the teaching of the Buddha. So then this is how many of the Mayan studyings, the temples are neglected. So it's illegally destroyed. It's not illegally. Okay. Chanju semjo rinpoche, ma geba na gejuji, geba nyamba, mewa nyam, konde kondo pewaji, tonye dowa rinpoche, ma geba na gejuji, geba nyamba, mewa nyam, konde kondo pewaji, pama simjen tamje dedan denjuji, ngenro tamje dado tonwa, chanju semba kanda sushubi, dada kunji, molom jubjiruji, karera weko shimazu, penda dewa malun jungwene, jeren sewa, tenzin jazo yinshaba, side bado denjuruji.
May the precious body mind, not yet born, arise and grow. May the bone have no decline but increase forevermore. May the precious mind realizing emptiness, not yet born, arise and grow. May the bone have no decline but increase forevermore. Due to all these merits, may all father and mother sentient beings have all the happiness, and may all lower realms be empty forever. Wherever there are bodhisattvas, may all their prayers be accomplished immediately. In the sacred land surrounded by snow mountains, you are the source of all benefit and happiness, all powerful intrinsic tīrthikas. Remain in this world until your samsara ends.
Thank you very much.